Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the Mindset Check podcast. I'm your host, Misha McKittrick. This is a podcast where we believe that as you take time for a mindset check, you have more power than you think you do. And we also believe that you have the power to influence and create your life. Something that I'm really super jazzed about, super excited about, is I'm dropping into coaching you in the fall. And I'm excited for the space that we get to open up inside of there. If I were to stop and ask you, how are you really feeling? Like, what's the main feeling that you feel in your life? And if you were to be honest about that, would you say that the main feeling that you feel is elation and happiness and excitement? And you could answer that you're feeling fantastic? Or would you resonate that you sometimes struggle to keep your mind in a calm state? Or maybe you are a little more reactive than you sometimes wish that you were. Or maybe you would report that your mind jumps from thought to thought to thought without you having much control over that. Sometimes we get into patterns where it's natural for us to feel low and where we tend to numb ourselves temporarily to come out of those feelings. And I want to teach you something different. I want to teach you the ways that you can choose your feelings, shift your energy. I want to walk you through it. I want to be a vibrational force for you in helping you see what you might not see right now. I'm hoping to help you literally step into powerful living and to rewire the feelings that automatically come to you. To change from low vibe to peace, love, high-flying feelings, and goodness that you get to have all the time. I'm excited because we're also going to do something really cool. I'm going to walk you through meditation. I'm going to walk you through what that looks like and how that opens up space in your brain so that you have more control over your thoughts and that you have more space between stimulus and response, something that happens in your life and the way that you respond. I'm so excited to teach you how to check into vibrations that feel amazing in your body. So if you're interested in that, join me. Here's what I'm doing. For 3 days, we're dropping in completely for free. I promise you'll get a lot just out of the 3 days. So this is the mindset challenge for 3 days. We're going to drop in 1 hour-ish per day. And then at the end of those 3 days, you'll have an opportunity to check into something more, into my course called Power Up, where for 8 weeks we get to be together, where we get to explore and expand, and I get to show you some really cool stuff. You'll also get 2 one-on-one coaching sessions with me. And I'm so excited for what can come. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you're in that 3-day challenge. Make sure that you come and show up and see how it feels for you and feel if it's something that is calling to you, something that will help you step out of whatever it is that you're really experiencing in your life. And if we can bring you into something different. Okay? So click the link in the show notes, or you can find the link in my Instagram bio. You can also find it in Facebook. You can DM me. You can email me, hello@myfriendmisha.com. There's so many ways. Just reach out and I'll make sure that you're on the list and that you get the links for the live classes that we're going to do in Zoom and on Facebook. My heart is expanding just thinking of having you there. So, and thank you so much for showing up today and being interested in this podcast and in this story. It's a complete pleasure of mine to drop in here with you. Really quickly, if you're joining us for the first time, hello. Know that you're dropping into the middle of a story. You're dropping into the middle of something that we've been working on for almost a year now, really reporting from my journal from when I was 15 and pregnant. if you're interested in more of the backstory, you can go back and listen. And if you want to just drop into where we're at today, we're so glad you're here. There are no new characters that you don't know or aren't familiar with if you've been listening. So let's jump in. May 6, 1995. Hello. Yesterday, I went to a wedding with Jesse's mom in Salt Lake. I left early from work and very unexpectedly saw Jesse. We, all of Jesse's family and Jesse, were at dinner. I could not handle it. I went to the bathroom and cried, and then I went outside and Jesse came out and I broke down and I told him I couldn't handle all of this stress and I feel so empty, like I have no one to talk to. And how can he hurt someone like this and keep them hanging on until there is absolutely nothing left? Then we went back to the wedding, played pool and stuff, and then Jesse's mom and I went to Bountiful, ate, got gas, drove to the temple, saw Jesse again, and planned to meet for breakfast. Mary, that's Jesse's mom, Mary and I went and slept at a family member's house, and in the morning we went to a church movie about a convert woman. Then we went to breakfast with Jesse. He's got a cellular phone and says he sleeps or lives in the truck. Anymore, I don't know. I never know when he's lying. Anyway, we didn't have a very good visit because we didn't really get to talk. But I told him to remember what life is all about, and especially to remember the important things. I think that our relationship is definitely going to be based on good friendship, and I think our relationship in heaven as a family will be very glorious. We both had Taylor. Nobody will ever forget her. I don't know about what my destiny is, but I will go through the temple. I will find someone I can trust and totally confide in, and I will be with Taylor again. I love her. I just watched her video, and I was reminded of her precious laugh, and I can't wait to hear it again. I get my patriarchal blessing tomorrow. Okay, so there's a little bit of stuff going on in that. What's funny about this trip, I remember taking the trip, but I don't remember being at dinner and going outside and talking to Jesse, and some of those things I think I've blocked out. I think there's just heavy emotion that maybe I'm just not willing to relive, or maybe it's just the way that life is. We don't remember everything, you know? And that one's a hard one for me to just know. But I do remember feeling like startled when we were on that trip at times when we would see him. And now that I'm like on the other side of it, I'm like, well, duh. He was totally in the know. Like his mom was totally letting him know where we were. And of course we didn't have cell phones back then. So that's why it felt more surprising and more realistic that it could be surprising. I mean, you know, it's just very different. But he kind of had a weird way of like showing up sometimes when I thought he wasn't going to, and he just had a way of figuring it out. I was processing a ton of emotions and really going through, I feel like the letting go process, you know, feeling so empty and stripped, and I think my insides just knowing that I am trying to pivot in life. And that is one of the two things that I want to talk about today. That sometimes in life, you know, we have times where we make small pivots, like, you know, we have to be like flexible and understanding and, you know, from day-to-day plans. And sometimes we have big things that we have to pivot. And it's actually really tough. And I think research has proven that it's even harder for women to kind of make change in life and these pivots. And I guess my aim today is to introduce the idea that we can be more flexible. That when things come our way that don't feel like easy, that we can trust in more. That we can trust that life is always working out for us. And that alone can make us more flexible. That if we kind of zoom out and see the bigger picture, that it helps us handle the curveballs in the plan B. So I have a story of my mom, and this is when I had all 3 of my boys, and we were, I don't know, maybe 5-7 years ago. My mom does this thing in the summer where when my boys were a little bit younger, she would pick them up and each of them had 1 week with grandma. And they got to pick out whatever food they wanted, whatever activities they wanted to do. And it was such a huge gift to me in the summer, and to them and to her, everything all the way around. But it was such a huge gift, especially because the boys got one-on-one time with grandma, and then the other 2 that were at home got to bond in a different way than they did with all 3 of them. It's awesome when they're all together, but it's also awesome when they have their time. And it kind of helped break up the summer. It was so good. So my mom was coming to pick up my middle boy, and she had told me like a time that she was going to come. And so I was planning for that, and my son had packed his bag and he was ready to go. And we were going to go to the river for a couple of hours and hang out with some friends and meet some friends. And the boys were really excited. They like to go to the river and go skimboarding, and, you know, it's just kind of a thing here. And just as we were backing out, my mom shows up and she's like, "Hey." And I'm like, "Mom, you're early." And she's like, "I know. It's great. Whatever." She's like, "Is Scotty ready?" And I'm like, "Well, Mom, we're like heading to the river right now." And you know, instead of coming in and trying to change my plans, my mom, who is fully like dressed and ready for the day, mind you, I'm in my swimsuit and, you know, hat and sunscreen, the whole thing. My mom, who's like totally ready for the day, is just like, "Well, why don't I just go with you? Can you just throw in an extra chair?" And I'm like, "Heck yes, let's do this." So my mom gets in the car and she joins us at the river and puts her feet in the water and cools off as much as she can with what she's wearing. And we had a great memory. And my mom could have said, "I don't have my things. I don't have my swimsuit. I'm not ready. She was so easy. So easy. And it was such an incredible example for me, who sometimes has a hard time shifting into something different. I have another experience that I want to share with you, and this one happened just before Christmas of 2020. So I was making neighbor gifts, and you know, when you're doing that and you're printing things and you're making things and you're getting the ribbon and you're tying all the bows and all the things. And I was printing this label, okay, for Spice Rub. We have this spicy honey chicken mix that we love, and I was sharing it with our neighbors and our friends. And as I was printing these, the printer went completely haywire. And of course, I found myself on my laptop in my printer closet, troubleshooting and quite frustrated. And while I was waiting on the printer, you know, trying to fix it and letting it kind of do its thing, I came across a sweet video message on YouTube. And I instantly had this feeling that both my mom and my Aunt Noni, who are alone a lot of the time during, you know, especially this season at Christmas when it was, that they both needed to hear that message to uplift their Christmas spirit. And so I quickly just sent it to them. And as soon as I sent it, the printer issues resolved and I was back in business. And the best part is that I actually realized that it was the curveball that was exactly what I needed to take the pause to make a difference and show up somewhere else. And then I went right back to what I was doing. And I have sometimes friends who are so easy at like, okay, well, what's next? That's okay. It'll all come to us. Or, well, that's exactly the way that it's supposed to work out. It's, and that's such a great example for me. And so whether you're up against small pivots or really big life pivots, like huge life-changing pivots, like this 15-year-old girl was in this journal, I hope that there's a part of you in your heart that believes that you're worthy of knowing that life is working out in your favor. And the things that are being placed in front of you are on purpose, and they're leading you and guiding you. Because I think when I can attach and grab onto that, it makes the change easier. Another huge part that I'm noticing in my journal that's part of this pivot and this, trying to change directions and figuring out how life is now going to be is right at the end. Okay, when I start talking about like, I don't know how our relationship is going to be here, but I think that our relationship in heaven is going to be glorious, right? And I say, look, we both had Taylor, and we're both like, we're never going to forget her. And I started making statements that say, like, I will go through the temple. That was important for me. I will find someone that I can trust and totally confide in. I will be with Taylor again. All of these statements that are creation statements. And that is, it's beautiful for me to look back on as a 15-year-old and see myself inventing that and creating it for my future. And also to be reminded of the importance of that in our life. I feel like this is a big part of the things that are being placed before me. That I'm learning so much about creating and being able to envision my future. And it's huge. It's so beautiful. And I've seen the most amazing things come to fruition because I've been playing in this field, right? I've studied about affirmations and vision boards and feeling the future and manifesting. It's something I'm super, super interested in. And I do believe that we were sent here to learn how to be creators. I believe that. On whatever level we could be ready for. And so I've had little things where, I started with affirmations and manifested a car, manifested a house, manifested some relationship, situational things. I've had vision boards where I have pictures of me. Well, they weren't me, but I have pictures of me afterwards. So I create the vision board of me rappelling in a jungle. And then 6 months after I created it, I had a picture of myself that almost mimics the picture completely. I didn't set the picture up. I didn't ask for it because I thought it was on my vision board. I need to create it. I just went, and the guy who took a ton of pictures, I think we paid him $20 after the little adventure. He had snapped this picture of me doing this thing that I had placed on my vision board. This is real stuff. Our ability to create. And no matter what I have played around with, no matter what method, I understand that the bottom line to all of these things is feeling. It's feeling. It's feeling what that would be like and being able to feel first before we create it. Okay, so I'm going to use an example right now that I think a lot of the world will understand. I don't drink coffee, so I don't understand completely, but I do mix up my Zip Fizz. And so in my mind, that's how I think of this. But This is an example where if you have this morning ritual of drinking something, each day. So mine is a Zip Fizz in the afternoon. Yours might be a cup of coffee in the morning. Whatever it is, you anticipate this feeling of experience of that first sip. Like kind of sometimes before you even get out of bed, or for me, I look forward to it. I just look forward to it. It's really the addiction, right? of the caffeine. But this is a way to break it down for us so that we really understand how we're creating and bringing that into our life. Because you think about the event before it even happens. You think about what's going to be in your mug before you even get there, which leads to the programmed behavior of it. You think about it, you know how it feels, and it's compelling. It brings you towards it. You're predicting the feeling of the experience before it happens. And so by doing that, you're creating reality. So when it comes time to have that cup, you walk into the kitchen and you make it, you create it. And then you bring it forth and it's in your hands after you felt what it would feel like to have that. Where our attention is, our energy is. Our body can follow our mind to the unknown. It's much easier to create in life in that way than to create in life from a standpoint of hard work and goal setting and all those. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that there's a different way. And the different way doesn't mean there's not hard work, and it doesn't mean that there's not, laying it out and working backwards kind of a thing. But when you feel it, you instinctively know how to move forward into it. So every single thing that I've studied about this, right? Joe Dispenza will ask you to call up what you want to bring into your life by feeling your future. Gabby Bernstein will say the most important part of manifesting is feeling. Victor Bach will say that the most important part of affirmations and bringing one forward is that you actually imagine yourself in it as though it has already happened, and to feel what it feels like. Everybody knows that if you create affirmations and you actually feel sucky because those aren't real, you're just digging a hole and going backwards, right? You're going backwards, you're not making progress. There's a bit of tricking our brain or feeling it to create it and to step into it. So I hope that you're beginning to start to see that feeling is so vital. And here is a clue. So many times we don't like what we're feeling in life, and so we don't feel. We won't feel. We choose not to. Because we would rather check out than feel. When we get brave enough to feel what is there, we handle it. Feeling is not scary. And then we understand that we have access to so many things because we feel. So instead of practicing things that might feel familiar to you or habitual to you, or feelings that keep you connected to your past, we have to make sure that we are tricking our brain into feeling what we want to create and to bring into being for our future. So let me just take you to a different story so that you can kind of understand and let this sink in just a little bit more about how powerful our brains are. I was talking to my medical massage person, and I have found someone that is really helping me through this hip issue that I have. And he was talking to me about how our brain will shut down movement and make it restricted or not accessible to us because it's trying to protect our body in some way. And what he is doing is he's coming in and reminding our body that we do have, like reminding my body that I have that movement accessible to me. And it's reteaching my brain that I have access to that. So think of it like this. When you wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and you might stub your toe, isn't it funny that your entire leg, like you can't work your leg for a minute. You kind of like hop for a second and you can't quite walk. You might limp for just a minute. Well, you didn't hurt your whole leg. You didn't hurt your whole leg. You hurt your toe. But your brain's reaction is to protect your toe by disabling your leg. What? Isn't that mind-blowing to think? And so sometimes we have to learn to think differently, to trick our brain, to pull it into something different so that something else can be accessible for us. There's a story I love called Two Pebbles. Many years ago, in a small Indian village, a farmer had the misfortune of owing a large sum of money to a female village moneylender. The female moneylender, who was old, fat, and ugly, fancied the farmer's handsome son, Cliff. So she proposed a bargain. She said that she would forego the farmer's debt if she could marry his son. Both the farmer and his son were horrified by the proposal. So the cunning female moneylender suggested that they let Providence decide the matter. She told them that she would put a black pebble and a white pebble into an empty money bag. The son would have to pick one pebble from the bag. If he picked the black pebble, he would become her husband and her father's debt would be forgiven. If he picked the white pebble, he need not marry her and his father's debt would still be forgiven. But if he refused to pick a pebble, his father would be thrown into jail. They were standing on a pebble-strewn path in the farmer's field. As they talked, the moneylender bent over to pick up two pebbles. As she picked them up, the sharp-eyed son noticed that she had picked up two black pebbles and put them into the bag. She then asked the son to pick up a pebble from the bag. The son put his hand into the money bag and drew out a pebble. Without looking at it, he fumbled and let it fall onto the pebble-strewn path, where it immediately became lost among all the other pebbles. "Oh, how clumsy of me," he said. "But never mind. If you look into the bag for the one that's left, you'll be able to tell which pebble I picked. Since the remaining pebble is black, it must be assumed that he had picked the white one. And since the moneylender dared not admit her dishonesty, the son changed what seemed an impossible situation into an extremely advantageous one." Isn't that story just like, for me, it's like he gets backed into this wall and then his brain, instead of thinking about the three options that were in front of him, he went a totally different route. He thought outside of the box. And I think that's what we have to do in our life to be able to create something different for our future. We have to be able to sit in our feelings, to be conscious. And there's lots of ways of diving into your beliefs and flipping them and figuring out what you want to create for your future and what you can bring into your life. But don't forget that the trick is just knowing that it's possible for you, that it's something that's accessible for you right now, today. And secondly, that feeling is the key. Feeling is the key that opens up that locked gate that feels like life as you have always known it. I love the way that these two things that we are talking about in this episode are drawing out from the journal, with pivoting and being flexible and also creating your future what you want, go so closely together. not being so ruffled that life isn't exactly what you want, because that creates feelings of lack and scarcity. But being able to sit in possibility is what brings it forward. Being able to envision what you want and you desire. John C. Maxwell said, if you don't try to create the future you want, you must endure the future you get. That quote is gold. And with that, I hope you see that you have more power than you think you do. And I just wanted to remind you one more time to drop into my mindset challenge. Drop into my mindset challenge, the 3 free day challenge where we're going to just be able to exchange energy, share space, and to create breakthroughs for you to be able to choose your feelings, to shift your energy, to raise your vibration, to do exactly what we've been talking about in this episode, but to have your hand held while you're doing it. So don't forget to make sure that you're registered for that. All that you need to do is click the link and give me your email, and I will make sure that you have what you need to show up on September 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And don't worry, if you're not able to show up live, then there will be recordings and you can watch those things back later in the day if you are not able to attend at the times that we're doing it. And right now I want to drop into an ask, and I know I ask you a lot, but just a little reminder that if you haven't rated and reviewed the podcast, this is what podcasts actually really need. There's a reason why almost every podcast that you listen to, the host is asking you to please go rate and review, because it absolutely changes the trajectory of how your podcast is being able to be seen when people are talking about it and raving about it, and where the algorithm sees that, it will lift and show your podcast to more people. So I would really appreciate that. And once again, I just want to thank you for allowing me to walk through your journey with you today. And I want to encourage your heart to expand, and just to know that you have the power to create so much in front of you. And I hope to lead you in that journey. Until next time, my friend.